Everyone, we have a jam-packed video for you today. Like, oh my God, there's so many big stories. You have a huge report out of Bloomberg about some details about the retail sales of Switch 2 and Nintendo refuting those details by using, I don't know, an explanation that to me just doesn't make any sense. We have updates on, well, an unfortunate update dealing with Switch 2 pre-orders here in the United States and what we can do about it now. So, man, that's never good. Like a couple weird stories out the bat. We have some updates as well about the possibility of a Nintendo Direct in the next couple of weeks. We also have some updates on a bunch of games and new footage and trailers and all of that for games coming to Switch 2. And don't forget that there's more in this. This is a very long video today. So before we dive in, though, I want to remind you about today's sponsor. Well, folks, today we are sponsored by the AverMedia Elite Go. This is a really, really cool device because we've seen portable docks before that you plug into the wall and can plug right into your Nintendo Switch. And that's really cool, but this does more than that. So first off, if you just go over and look at it plugged into the wall, there's 4 ports on it. One of them is your HDMI pass-through to your TV, and then you have a top port and a bottom USB port. Both can do 100-watt charging, but when they're both in use, they do 45-watt each with the USB-C-A or the USB-A in the middle of it. That one supports, well, 5-watt charging, which is actually perfect to plug in a microphone. Now, why might you want to plug in a USB microphone? Well, this is actually a capture card, folks. So while you can see that it's up on the TV screen and it's working per normal as we move around and we can play our games and do all the stuff we want with the Switch, what you also aren't seeing right now is that it actually works right here on the computer. So here we are in OBS. It does come with its own software for recording that you can download for free when you plug the device into your computer. But if you're like me and you just like to use OBS or you're live streaming, this is awesome. It just works. It's so cool that this is such a compact design that does all that charging options while also enabling you to do 1080p 60 capture with 4K 60 pass-through. So no, you're not going to get your 4K 120 hertz recording like you might want for Switch 2, but for on-the-go capture, 1080p 60 is really all you need. I'm just really thrilled that this product works as is. I literally just plug it in and it just goes. It just works. This is awesome. Like, it can even replace your dock at home if you want it to, if you just want occasional capture capability with that. I get a lot of questions at times about capture cards. This is a dock and capture card in one. I love it. You guys can go ahead and check it out through the link down in the description. And I want to thank you again to AverMedia for sponsoring this video. And don't forget, I just found out today, actually, that this thing here, this little AverMedia Elite Go, it also works with Switch 2. They were able to confirm that and got back to me today. So yeah, this is future compatible for Switch 2. So that's awesome as well. All right, now let's go ahead and remind you, we are giving away 5 copies of Donkey Kong Bonanza. You can find a link to that down in the pinned comment or in the description below the sponsored link. And let's go ahead and get into our first story. This one coming from Bloomberg, and this is the one that's really weird because Nintendo refutes it, but the way in which they refute it doesn't really make a lot of sense. So Nintendo has a shrewd plan for selling Switch 2 in Japan. So we come down here, and it says Nintendo is making an unusual move with its Switch 2 distribution in Japan. It's setting wholesale prices so retailers can earn more from each sale. Store operators will be able to make a gross margin of about 5% on each Switch 2 sold, higher than the informal industry standard of roughly 2%, according to people familiar with the plan. The decision will help bolster domestic retailers and ensure the new console is given prominent placement at outlets across the country, the people said, asking not to be named as the information is private. Shares of Nintendo fell as much as 2.2% in Tokyo on Monday. Nintendo is investing heavily to ensure its next flagship console is a hit in home in Japan. The Switch 2 launches globally on June 5th, priced at $450 in most markets. A Japanese language version sold only for domestic use, however, will cost 49,980 yen or $350, which actually is notable because that means the yen has actually increased in value since the price. It was about $130 cheaper here than the US when they announced the price. Now it's only $100 cheaper. So the yen is actually bouncing back slowly this year. The company's retail plans appear in line with this push to ensure a strong home debut. Game consoles are typically priced to yield very thin gross margins, yada, yada. So the big deal here is the 5%, right? This is what we're talking about, where apparently retail is getting a 5% margin for profits, right? So when a retailer sells you a Switch 2 in Japan, 5% of that price they're selling to you is kept by the retailer. That is their profit margin. Normally, it's just 2%. Now, I mentioned Nintendo is refuting this, but the way they refute it and the language they use, I don't get it. But this is Nintendo's official English translation, not even relying on Google Translate, because they responded to this report last night. And it says, on June 2nd, 2025, a news report related to the wholesale price of Switch 2 in the Japanese market was published. That's that article by Bloomberg. We want to clarify, this report is not true. Okay, fine. That's cool. Nintendo does not disclose any information regarding business conditions with distribution and retail partners. Okay. Seems pretty cut and dry, right? Except this last part doesn't make sense. Think about this. Nintendo does not disclose any information regarding business conditions with distribution and retail partners. Okay, let's focus on this retail partners aspect right here. What was the story? The story was that retail makes a 5% margin instead of a 2% margin. That's the story. A retailer is the one selling your product. A retailer obviously knows its own margins on the products it sells. It would not sell anything without knowing its own profit margins. So to say, we do not disclose any information regarding business conditions with distribution and retail partners, they might not know like exactly where all the money from MSRP is going, right? Like they might have no idea, the retail might have no idea where all the MSRP goes, but they definitely would know if their margin was 5% versus 2%. That's what doesn't make sense about Nintendo saying this story is false. Well, what part of the story is false? Because you're claiming retail wouldn't know this information, but retail would absolutely know their own percentage cut of a sale. They are the ones selling the product to the consumer, direct to them. They know how much of that sale they get to keep. So to me, it's really weird. It's a really strange refuting. I kind of feel like this is one of those things where like other parts of the story, they're saying, you know, they're refuting like, hey, you know, talk about where all the money goes and how much margins Nintendo makes. Maybe that stuff's inaccurate, but what can't be inaccurate is the 5%. I mean, it can be. It could be a lie. The sources could be wrong. That is absolutely true, but not the way Nintendo puts it. It can't be that Nintendo doesn't tell retail what their percentage is. Retail knows how much margins they make on sales. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird story. Nintendo's refuting it. Those are the facts. I'm just pointing out how strange it is. I don't know what to believe. Ultimately, I don't think it's a big deal. I'm not a retailer. I don't have to worry about my margins on products. But, you know, what we do have to worry about as consumers, though, is our ability to get a Switch 2. A lot of us locked in pre-orders a long time ago in April 24th to be exact, 25th for some people. And it's launch week. Should be an exciting time. Instead, it's becoming a stressful time for thousands, possibly millions of consumers. Switch 2 US pre-orders reportedly canceled by major retailers. Walmart, Target, and GameStop customers are affected. A number of would-be customers across the pond in the US have experienced unexpected Switch 2 cancellations. Posts like the ones on Reddit and social media platform X show several patrons have had their Switch 2 orders canceled from retailers such as Walmart and Target. Just checked, and I saw a post on X from Wario64, and it was about making sure payment is all good to go for when they are ready to ship. I checked, and my order got canceled 2 days ago. According to the replies, the original poster is not the only one this happened to. Another post, did anyone else's Switch 2 pre-order getting canceled out of nowhere, shared on the Walmart subreddit, said the same thing. I just got an email saying it was canceled due to a payment error, even though it was the same card I pre-ordered with. Even more examples of these Switch 2 cancellations can be found on X. Walmart, you have failed me for canceling my Switch 2 pre-order when my payment method is valid and has funds available. Give it back. While Walmart and Target seem to be the main retailers in the US to have canceled Switch 2 orders, GameStop has also been name-checked online, although the problem doesn't appear to be as widespread. FYI, Target canceled my Switch 2 pre-order, all this stuff. So these reports follow last week's news here in the UK, which Game admitted it had canceled a number of Switch 2 online pre-orders, but it was actually a glitch. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people, even on my YouTube channel, hear my humble abode. A lot of you have had this happen to you. You have had your Walmart pre-order canceled. You have had your Target one canceled. I don't have good news for you. I've talked to some of my contacts at Walmart and one contact I have at Target. I also took a little bit of time yesterday to talk to Jake Randall, and we don't have good news updates for you. What I can say is the pre-orders don't appear to be canceled because of a stock issue. Okay. They did not take too many pre-orders. They had the stock. Some of it is payment issue related. That is just normal. If they went to charge your card and your bank flagged the payment, they might have canceled your order. That happens. That's very unfortunate when it does happen. Some people might not have had the funds in their account either. Okay, those are bog standard cancellations. The problem is the cancellations are happening to people that have well more than enough funds on their given card and they had no bank denial. And Walmart's customer support, who doesn't really work directly at Walmart, they're overseas, they are giving things like, oh, glitch in the system as an excuse. Walmart does not appear to be reinstating these pre-orders. And at this point, I think it's safe to assume that you're just not going to have your pre-order at Walmart or Target if it got canceled. Now, there's other issues going on as well. I know at Walmart specifically, because I can speak to this on hand, I have one unit pre-ordered at Walmart that we're giving away. We're actually giving away it tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. But here's the thing. They didn't charge me once for it. They didn't charge me twice for it. They charged me 3 times. That's right. In the last 3 days, Walmart has charged me $526 3 times. I have 3 pending charges on my bank. Maybe that has something to do with the cancellations. People can't take that many pending charges. That's a lot of money. I have over $1,000 locked up. And only $526 of that is actually for the system. So I have like $1,600 locked up right now, when I should only have $526 locked up. Now, my order's not canceled, and because I had the funds to cover the 3 separate charges, I'm probably safe with that pre-order, but it's still very unfortunate that I'm now sitting here on Monday, $1,000 is just gone out of my bank that should be there. And that is not good. I assume it's going to fall off, and I'll get it back sometime this week, but it's Monday. It's not back yet. It's a business day. Will it come back tomorrow? Will it even be back by the time the Switch 2 comes out? There's a chance they might deliver the unit and I still might not have my money back. So I'm very, very frustrated with that experience. Now, here's the thing. I can't do anything about it. There's nothing we could do about your canceled pre-order at this point. I would just assume they're not going to reinstate it. This means if you still want a day one launch unit and you were unfortunately one of these customers, your best bet, and I say this, with no trepidation, you got to go in person on day one. Now, good news is there's a lot of retailers that are going to have in-person stuff. Staples, select stores. Staples might actually be an MVP on launch day because a lot of people don't think about Staples for systems. Select Staples stores, we'll put a link down below, will have units available. That actually might be one of the best places to go because it might be the smallest line. Best Buy, Walmart, Target, and GameStop will all have units available day one. Some of them, like Best Buy and GameStop, are potentially selling some of those extra units at midnight on launch. So there's a chance you can go out to those midnight launches at Best Buy and GameStop and still get a unit without a pre-order. That's exciting too. But really, you got to worry about the store openings. Now, I would say Target is one of the best ones to go to right now. They have a ticketing system they announced they're going to be doing for people that come to the store. They are not taking orders online that day. They aren't taking online orders until the 6th. So on the 5th, you can go, like, let's say, 3, 4, 5 a.m., go wait in line. They will come out. They will give you a ticket or do a digital ticket, and you are locked in. If you get that ticket, you will get the opportunity to buy a Switch 2 and obviously whatever accessories and games you like. So that to me is the best place to go. But again, not everyone has Targets near them. So you got your Walmarts, your GameStops, your Best Buys, your Staples. Costco is going to have units day one in store as well. If you happen to be a Costco member, that could be a place to go. Sam's Club, we haven't heard anything about yet. There could be units, or they could just all be allocated to the Walmart locations. Remember, Walmart owns Sam's Club. I'm not saying Sam's Club won't eventually have units, but it could just be for launch. Walmart wanted to keep them for their big stores. So anyways, I'm just throwing that out there as those are all the possible places to go day one. And yes, I would say and argue if you want to guarantee your system if it got canceled, you want to show up early, potentially hours early, to guarantee it. This is an impossibly unfortunate situation, and I'm really sorry to everyone this happened to. But we got to move on because we have other stories to get to. Do you remember the other day when I told you guys that, hey, your Switch 2 is not a brick? I have been, literally seen someone play Mario Kart World on it, but I only had one source on that showing that, no, you don't need a day one update to use your Switch 2. You need the day one update for backwards compatibility, which would make sense because the current operating system on launch Switch 1s or Switch 2s, I'm sorry, is from October of last year. And with that being the current firmware that's on the system, backwards compatibility probably wasn't done yet, right? I think that's understandable. You know, they got to get these products ready months ahead of time to sell. So we now have a second source on this. Necrofelipa Lima over here on X here says, Nintendo Switch 2 confirmed that the console does not need a patch to run Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games or the complete Nintendo Switch 2 edition on cartridges. Day one patches only required for Nintendo Switch 1 games and additional system features. microSD Express card is one of those features. So there you go. Your system is not a brick at launch. Again, now that we have a second source on this, that's just awesome. Always a good reminder that stories evolve as more information comes out. And we were getting this information from systems that leaked out early. You know, that always makes it a little fishy. But now we're very, very confident. And I'm very confident to tell you, because I've literally seen someone play it, that, yeah, the Switch 2 is not a brick without a day one update. All right. Next up, we got to get to some exciting stuff. Now, we know Summer Game Fest is coming up this week, and Nintendo's participating, and that's really exciting. But what's also really exciting is one of Nintendo's partners is participating, that partner being Capcom. And thankfully, we have a very good insider for Capcom leaks called Dusk Golem, who's giving us a lot of hope for a major game from Capcom to show up this week. And that game very well is likely going to be coming to, well, Switch 2, because the prior ones are on Switch, although they're there through cloud streaming, but that's a different conversation. Again, not like I can 100% confirm this. No one's directly told me that it's going to be this week. But at this point, I'm like 95% positive we're on the verge of Resident Evil 9 being revealed at Summer Game Fest. This is the first time behind the scenes there's a lot of buzz in the grapevine, lots of rumblings, the sort of activity behind the scenes that usually signs we're about to get a Resident Evil game announced. Add to that, Capcom's Resident Evil social media accounts seem to be getting more active suddenly. And Screenfire Germany's claim, I put stake in his words here. I don't know who that is, but it's someone that he trusts anyway. And I say, if you're tuning in to Summer Game Fest on June 6th, hoping that Resident Evil 9 will show up, there's an incredibly high chance you won't be disappointed. I'm getting into hype mode myself. So you know when he's getting hyped up, he's definitely believing it's going to be there. Now, this is a rumor, of course. He wasn't even told directly it's going to be there. It's just all the other things happening around the game seem to suggest that it will. So that is really exciting stuff. And look, Resident Evil is a series I really love. So I really hope it comes to Switch 2. That's kind of the hope here. But for now, it's a rumor and a hope, right? That's what we have here. Next up, we got to talk about another insider, actually a couple of them. Remember when we talked about the Nintendo Direct last week and how there's a rumor started with PH Brazil and then backed up by Nintendo that there is a Direct either this week or next week for Nintendo Switch 2. And that rumor, no matter what we talk about today, still could end up panning out. But you're going to see why some people are now doubting it. Also, it turns out Brazil is now retiring officially as a leaker. He's still going to be around doing his thing, but he's basically saying, stop listening to me for leaks. I'm done with that stuff. So why? Well, we'll get into it in a moment. First, we got to talk about Nate the Hate. So Nate the Hate dropped a podcast today, and it's a long show. It's mostly just a bunch of opinions and just talking about their hype for the Switch 2 launch, him and Modern Vintage Gamer. But one of the things that's addressed in there is that he mentions he has not heard about a Nintendo Direct happening in the immediate future. In fact, he says words along the lines of, I haven't heard anything about a Nintendo Direct. Now, he does say one usually does happen in June, September, etc., but he hasn't heard anything. And it's notable that he doesn't hear about every Nintendo Direct before it happens. And normally when he does, it's the week of. So if he's not saying he's heard of it right now, well, hey, it's probably not this week, right? Still could be next week. But in wake of this stuff from Nate the Hate, where he said he just hasn't heard anything yet, which, again, is neither here nor there, PH Brazil decided he wanted to respond over on Family Boards. And you know what, Pedro Henrique Luda Lipa, I do have a lot of respect for you. And yes, I will stop treating you like an insider after that report. And I will stop reporting on the stuff you say per your request, because I do respect you. And I know you legitimately have sources. But if you're retiring from the leaker game, just like Emily Rogers did, I understand that. So let's get to what you had to say. Hey there, everyone. I'm purposely trying to stay away from message boards in general, but since I discovered my comments from last week found their way here and all over the internet, I should probably say this. I'm trying to disassociate from the whole leaker thing. I'm focusing on opinionative content, so, having opinions, and general reporting. All right, kind of basically what I do, which will end up being informed by leaked stuff at some point, but not necessarily. I briefly mentioned direct stuff offhand when discussing the lead up to Summer Game Fest during a stream a couple days ago, but that was an error of judgment, meaning he doesn't feel like he should have said anything. I genuinely didn't anticipate the rest of the internet finding out within minutes, but that's clearly out of my control nowadays, which is absolutely true. If you're doing stuff on the internet, it's going to spread like wildfire. I would know. The person I heard this info from insists on it. So he's not saying this stuff isn't real. The person who told him is saying this is happening. Okay. So he's not technically retracting the rumor. Okay. That's a big thing to remember. But I've watched this film before. And with Nate hearing otherwise, which wasn't otherwise, he just hasn't heard anything. Okay. To be clear, not otherwise, hasn't heard anything. I no longer believe we'll have a direct soon. You may consider this me backtracking as it is, although I never meant to track in the first place. I don't know what their plans are, and I'm not going to talk about them publicly in case I find out. I hope all of you have fun with Switch 2's launch. Enjoy your games, be nice to each other, and that's it. See ya. But again, I got to remember, Nate the Hate never said there wouldn't be a direct in the next couple of weeks. He just said he hasn't heard anything. Maybe Brazil's taking that a little far with what Nate said, but technically his source is still insisting on it. So yeah, he might not personally believe it's going to happen now, but that's just him going off of Nate the Hate, who literally just said he hasn't heard anything. It doesn't mean that there's not one that's going to happen. And Nate the Hate could literally hear Monday next week there's going to be a direct, right? So, because Nate the Hate usually reveals stuff pretty close these days to when they happen. That said, I totally understand taking the stance he is. There's just a lot of stuff that comes with leaking. And like, if a direct happens the next couple of weeks, he probably doesn't want any credit for it. And if a direct doesn't happen, he definitely doesn't want to get shit on for it. Look, the leak game can be harsh. The internet can be unforgiving. And I understand wanting to get out of it. So thank you for your prior leaks. And I will be sure that even if Reddit or other places start to cover your stuff, we'll kind of let it go. Unless you just come straight out and tell people that you want us to pay attention to something. So thank you so much, man, for your work in the past, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks with a Nintendo Direct. All right, next up, Nintendo gave us a great update for Scarlet and Violet, finally seeing it run in a, gameplay session on Switch 2 from the Nintendo Today app. We're over here on the Reddit, and it's 33 seconds, but this is a worthwhile 33 seconds. So we're going to go ahead and unmute this and play it for you guys so you can get an idea of how well Scarlet and Violet runs on Switch 2. All right, there you go. That's what we got. Pretty cool. Look, obviously the big thing is I wish we didn't need Switch 2 for the game to run that smooth. My biggest takeaway is how smooth it runs, the draw distance. Look, obviously it's not the greatest look because we're compressed on social media, 1080p only, all that stuff. But the biggest takeaway is how smooth the game runs. And I truly wish the game would just run that smooth all the time, but it is what it is. It doesn't run that smooth all the time. But what does run smooth, at least will be running smooth, or we hope will be running smooth, is Game Share. And Nintendo dropped a Game Share update as well on the Nintendo Today app. So let's go ahead and watch this one as well with the volume on. All right, so there you can go. You can see game share is pretty smooth and works pretty well. Again, it is something that it is a Switch 2. Some games will support game share with Switch 2 to other Switch 2s, game share from Switch 2 to Switch 1. Most games aren't really going to support game share, but games like 51 Worldwide Classics and stuff like that will obviously support it as they showed there. So another thing they showed today, again, lots of Nintendo Today app updates, is some new footage from Mario Kart World, which again, official media, so let's go ahead and check it out. We'll full screen it, unmute it, and check out the new desert area. All right, Arabian Night. No, sorry. Disney, don't come after me. I'm getting a lot of Aladdin vibes from that footage, but gameplay footage is all well and good. We also have one of Game Builder Garage using mouse mode, so let's go ahead and check that out. Again, lots of gameplay footage today. Shout out to Nintendo for giving this to us. Let's go ahead and unmute this and check out Game Builder Garage from Nintendo today. So yeah, look, it's Game Builder Garage. Obviously it's going to work really, really well with mouse mode. Any sort of like building thing, like I'd like to see Mario Maker 2 get updated with the mouse controls. That would be great. And the last thing we have for you today is something that came from Japan, and it's 5 minutes long. It is a look at Welcome Tour. And yes, I'm just going to let the whole thing play for you guys, and you could just sit back and enjoy the 5 minutes and 30 seconds of Welcome Tour gameplay.
ここは任天堂スイッチ2の秘密に触れられる、その名も任天堂スイッチ2の秘密展です。展示エリアは
We're going to put on captions for you guys so you can maybe understand what's being said.
スイッチ2の本体やドック、プロコントローラーなど全部で12のエリアがあります。それでは早速入場してみましょう。ここは秘密展の最初のエリア、左のジョイコン2のエリアです。どんな秘密に出会えるのか、さあ探索してみましょう。今何か出てきました。その正体はパーツの名前を教えてくれるスタンプです。パーツの近くでひょこっと現れるので見つけることができるはず。おや、何やら動いている展示がありますね。この展示ではミニゲームを遊ぶことでジョイコン2のマウス操作が体感できます。トゲトゲをどれだけ避け続けられるかに挑戦できます。結構な量が降ってくるのでマウス操作の練習にもうってつけです。スコアに応じて最大3枚のメダルがゲットできます。このメダルは新たなミニゲームをオープンするのに必要なのでたくさん集めてくださいね。ということで他のミニゲームもご紹介。流れる映像のフレームレートを当てるクイズや表現が豊かになった HD 振動2の振動だけを頼りに挑む振動神経衰弱やスティックとマウス操作の両手でプレイするバルーンハントなどスイッチ2のいろんな機能を遊んで体感できるミニゲームは全20種類。ミニゲームによっては新たな遊びを追加した続編が登場するものも。 いろいろなゲームにぜひ挑戦してみてください。右のジョイコン2のエリアにやってきました。ここではマグネットコネクターの秘密がわかるようです。ちょっと見てみましょう。隙間の意味という秘密ですが、任天堂スイッチ2本体とジョイコン2の間にはよーく見るとほんの少しだけ隙間があります。実はこの隙間には大事な意味があるんです。他にもドックの裏面の秘密や本体画面に関する秘密など、スイッチ2の基本的な特徴からちょっと深い技術のことまで170個以上の秘密がありますよ。そしてカテゴリーごとの秘密を読み終えるとちょっとした秘密クイズができるので、ぜひ挑戦してみてください。お、またスタンプがありました。どうやら右のジョイコン2のエリアにある全てのスタンプを集めたようです。これで次のエリアに進めるようになりました。はしごの先は、そう、内部にも入れちゃうんです。会場のあちこちにあるこの四角いブース、実はそれぞれスイッチ2ならではの技術を体感できるんです。ここではスーパーレゾリューションデモが体験できるようです。スーパーレゾリューションとは、粗い映像をよりくっきりと細かく表現することができる技術です。他にも空間を感じる立体サウンドやマラカスの中で動く素材の質感までもが手に伝わってくる HD 振動2が体感できるなど、この映像ではお伝えしきれない体験をお楽しみいただけます。まだまだお伝えしきれていない秘密がたくさんあるので、会場を隅々まで探索して実際に見て触れて感じてみてください。ダウンロードソフト任天堂スイッチ2の秘密展は任天堂 e ショップで購入いただけます。
All right, guys. So there you go. Pretty cool. If you saw any stuttering at all, that's just the playback on my end. That's not actually the game stuttering. But still, I do find it to be a really, really interesting game. It should be a pack-in. But we'll be checking it out on June 5th for you guys, and you can decide for yourself, maybe off watching that if you want to buy it. Let's go ahead and dive into this news right here from CD Projekt Red. Talking about Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2. This is this giant interview. We're not going to go over all of it, but I wanted to go over certain parts of it. So this was the Vice President of Technology at CD Projekt Red, Charles Tremblay. He said, "We really thought it was going to be more of a challenge. This is about getting the game to run on Switch 2. But in the end, it wasn't that much of a challenge." That's what we want to hear. We want to hear that bringing third-party games over was easy. So the road to Cyberpunk 2077 Switch 2 version began back in the summer of 2023, when Nintendo met with CD Projekt Red to discuss its then top-secret new hardware. So Nintendo met with CD Projekt Red in 2023. This might actually support the Gamescom rumors from back then, where they met with developers. But moving on. At that point, there was no software development kit. Explains Tremblay, just more like, okay, is there a possibility for us to collaborate with this hardware? I remember I was in the room and we just looked at each other and was like, yeah, of course we'll check it out. It looks like a really cool product. CD Projekt Red had, of course, already worked with Nintendo before, The Witcher 3. The duties were handled by Saber Interactive. This time around, things had to be different, in part due to the fact that the Switch 2 had yet to be publicly announced, and so it needed to be kept a closely guarded secret. It was way easier to have our super small team working end-to-end with Nintendo rather than delegating the process. Now it says Cyberpunk is built for x86. This is where any difficulties came in. Was that Cyberpunk was built for x86 with old PC architecture. So this was from the beginning. It was completely different. Lots of changes had to be done at an engine level. All the shaders are in a different language. We had to convert everything, some HLSL to GLSL, which is what the Switch 2 uses. A very, very different architecture. And there's other stuff in this interview as well. If you guys want to go check it out, they talk about the frame rate and their targets and DLSS tech. It's a really good interview. Again, I don't want to spoil the whole thing. Just wanted to tease it. You guys can go check it out. And the last thing I want to bring up is, hey, are you somebody who pre-ordered the Killswitch from D-Brand for Switch 2 or are considering it? It is available to purchase right now. So there it is, floating around. You see the buy now button. You can buy it right now. Notably, D-Brand has said that people who had the $3 discount, basically the $3 pre-order reservation thing, you guys will be the ones that get it first. It'll be shipped out before the end of this month. Most people that buy it right now that won't get shipped until like early July, possibly end of this month, if not everyone who did the $3 discount obviously decides to redeem it. But anyways, it's not really a discount, by the way. It's money you put down to reserve your interest in the system, or in the case. Anyways, I just wanted to point out that it's available. We talked about this last week, that it would be available today on June 2nd. And there it is. It's available. Now, that's going to do it for this extra long edition of today's Nintendo Switch 2 news, or today's big Nintendo Switch 2 news, or today's surprising Nintendo Switch 2 news, or today the Switch 2. Okay, the Switch 2 comes out this week. All right. That's what matters the most. But we're going to keep covering the news every single day here at Nintendo Prime. We're going to be live streaming all of Summer Game Fest. We're going to be live streaming, picking up a Switch 2 on Wednesday, actually. We're going to be doing an 8-hour stream. We have a giveaway tonight on our live stream. We're giving away a Switch 2 tonight. Woo! It's exciting times, folks. We made it! It's launch week! It's freaking launch week, baby! Okay. I got to save some of this energy for tonight, guys. I'll catch you guys then.